Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. We've introduced in our previous lessons the signs of an ism and the signs of a fi'l, meaning the distinguishing signs, the alamat of an ism, a noun. Give me one of them, ya Anas. Sign of a noun. It starts with al. An example? Al-masjid. Thank you. Barakallahu fikum. Hanif, another one. Tanween. With an example? Kitabun. Ahsant. Barakallahu fikum. Another one, Ibrahim? Harf al-jar or harf al-khafd coming before it. Example? Fil masjidi. Tayyib. So that's makhfud. There's a harf jar there. That's good. Third one. Do we have a fourth one, right? You got it, Abdul Alim. The fourth one? According to the text of Ajrumiyyah, he gives 4 signs. We've mentioned 3 of them. The 4th sign from the text of Ajrumiyyah is, you know it, Abdul Alim? Alif Lam was one, Tanween, a second one, Harf Khafd coming before it, like Fi, Al-Masjid. Now we need the other one, Al-Khafd, the Khafd case, being Makhfud. That means whether it's because of a Harfu Khafd or another reason like Idafa, whatever, being Makhfud is a sign of an ism because fi'ls cannot be Makhfud. It cannot be Majroor, another word for Makhfud. Then we talked about the 4 signs of a fi'l. Huruf al-Qasam, they're from Huruf al-Khafd. When we said Huruf al-Khafd, that includes Huruf al-Qasam. Huruf al-Qasam, they are Khafida. They are things that make the thing Majroor or Makhfud. So they are from the generality of Huruf al-Khafd. They're not a separate category. Yeah, look at the wording of lesson 4. والاسم يعرف بالخفض والتنوين ودخول الألف واللام وحروف الخفض وهي من وإلى وعن وعلى وفي ورب والباء والكاف واللام وحروف القسم وهي أيضا حروف القسم وهي الواو والباء والتاء. They are all حروف الخفض. حروف القسم are a kind of that. نعم. So the 4 kinds then have been mentioned. The fi'l, the verb, has 4 signs that have been mentioned in the text of Ajrumiyyah. What are those 4 signs? Give me one of them, Sultan. Qad. Example? Qad sami Allahu. Nice. Aba Asiya. Another one. Seen. What kind of seen and what do you mean? Give me an example. And your example? Kalla saya'lamun. The seen here means sawfa, and it comes in the beginning of a fi'l mudari', present tense verb. That seen is a sign for a fi'l. That was Abu Asiya. Barakallahu fikum. Another sign of the fi'l. Ya Aba Muhammad al-Albani. A ta. Yeah. It's maftuha al-shakal. It's laid out. It's not a ta marbuta. It's a ta maftuha in terms of its shape. It's an open ta at the end of a word. And what does it have on it? What's the haraka? Is it dhamma, kasra? What's on it? It's a sukoon on it. Ahsan. That's called ta ta'neeth as-sakina. The ta that's for femininity and it's sakina, has a sukoon. And when I said it's maftuha, I don't mean it has a fatha on it. I mean it's written in the maftuh form. It's opened up. It's not a ta marbuta that's wrapped up at the end of a word. So we've got qad, wasin, wasawfa. Oh, we don't have that one yet, huh? All right, well, be giving an example of sofa. Who's got the example of sofa? Sayyid Ikram, can you give me an example of sofa as a sign of a verb? Sofa nuslihim. Ahsant. Sofa nuslihim. Tayyib. So that nuslihim is a verb because it comes after sawfa. Barakallahu feek. Remember, we said the seen is not so easy to use because we don't know which seen is for the fi'l. It's really hard. It's pretty much like give up on that idea and focus on qad. That's a good indicator. And the sofa is a good indicator. And the ta'neeth as-sakina, those are good indicators of a verb that you can actually practically use fairly consistently to say that's a verb right there because it's got that sign. But that seen is hard to detect if you're a non-Arabic speaker and you're learning the language. Tayyib. Lesson 5, dear brothers. Who's going to read the matan? Hanif. Yaqeen, read the matan for me. I'm sorry. Lesson 6. Sorry. Nice. والحرف ما لا يصلح معه دليل الاسم ولا دليل الفعل. And what that means is the harf now, remember, كم أقسام الكلام? How many different parts of speech are there in Arabic? 3. So we've discussed now what a noun is recognized by, ism, and a fi'l. When a verb is recognized by, the thing that's left is the harf. How do you know what a harf is? The author Ibn Ajrumiyyah, who died in what year? 723. He said, ما لا يصلح معه دليل الاسم. It's a word that it doesn't have any sign of being a noun. ولا دليل الفعل. Nor does it have any sign of being a fi'l. So he uses the word dalil here. Dalil is ما دلك على شيء. What indicates something, what leads to you understanding something. يعرف به. ما يعرف به. It's what it's known by. Yeah? This definition of a harf it's really hard to apply. Because actually, give me a basic verb. 3-letter verb. Give me one, Abdul Alim. A basic 3-letter verb. Ran. In Arabic, give me a basic 3-letter verb. Any verb. Dhahaba. All right, dhahaba. Let's look at this word dhahaba that our brother Hanif has introduced. We know it's a verb because I asked you for a verb. So we know it's a simple verb. Okay, going into it, we know the answer, it's a verb. But let's apply what we've learned, the signs of verbs, nouns, and harfs. Let's see. Does it have the sign of a noun? Does it have an alif lam? No. Does it have tanween? No. Is it makhfudh? No. Does it have a harf qasam or harf jar before it? We didn't give it a context, but let's say no. Okay, so we know here it's not a verb. Sorry, we know here it's not an ism. It's not a noun. That's what we just went through, the signs of a noun. Now let's see if we can use one of the signs of a verb now. The 4 signs are qad, sin, sawfa, and ta'nith as-sakina. Qad, does it have a qad? Say dhahaba, the whole sentence is dhahaba zaydun. Dhahaba zayd, zayd went. All right, is there qad? No. Is there a sin? No. Is there a sawfa? No. Is there ta'nith as-sakina? No. So then it's not a fi'l. Is that a proper conclusion? It is a fi'l. So then, using the very definition that Ibn Ajrumiyyah has given us here, we see a flaw, don't we? Because a harf here, dhahaba, we'd have to classify dhahaba as a harf. It doesn't have a ta'nith as-sakina, not a qad, a sin, or a sawfa. It doesn't have a sign of being a fi'l. And it also doesn't have a sign of being an ism, so it fits the description of a harf. Is it really a harf? No, it's not. Let's look at another word. Give me the name of a lady. Zainab. Okay, Zainab. You know Zainab, is it a fi'l, an ism, or a harf? Anyone know? It's an ism. Yeah, it's a noun. Proper noun. Zainabu. All right. We know it's a noun. Let's just look at the signs of it being a noun. And of course, it's not going to have the sign of a fi'l because we know it's not a fi'l. Let's skip to the signs of a noun. Alif lam? No. Tanween? No. Zainabu. Not Zainabun. Zainabu. All right. Does it have, is it makhfudh? No. Ja'at Zainabu. And does it have, what's the other thing we're looking for an ism? Harful khafd before it? No. So the answer is no. And then you look at alamatul fi'l. Does it have a sign of being a fi'l? No, it doesn't. So then we'd have to say here Zainab is what? It's a harf. That's incorrect, right? So then let's adjust the definition of a harf to something that absolutely applies. It is al-harfu ma laysa bi ismin bismin wala fi'lin. The harf is any word that's not an ism and it's not a fi'l, versus that which doesn't have a sign of a fi'l or a sign of an ism. Ma laysa bismin wala fi'lin. Since words are 3 types, they're either asma, they're isms, or they're af'al, or they're fi'ls, or they must be ahruf, harfs. So then, whatever is not an ism or a fi'l, it must be a harf. That's whatever you know to have a sign or not. You know dhahaba is a fi'l, but it doesn't have the signs of being a fi'l that are mentioned by Ibn Ajrumiyyah. And you know Zainabu is an ism, but it doesn't have one of the 4 signs mentioned by Ibn Ajurrum. I indicated to you earlier that there are other signs. I mentioned to you, for example, lam. Lam coming before the word, lam, not lima, but lam. Fatha on the lam and a sukoon on the mim. That's a sign of what? A fi'l. There are other signs. So a fi'l can be known by other than these signs. These are just some basic signs. It's not correct to think if it doesn't have any of these four signs of a fi'l or any of these four signs of an ism, then it must be a harf. That would be an incorrect conclusion. So to change the definition, then it is ma laysa bi ismin wala fi'lin. Easy. Whatever is not an ism or a fi'l. That is a harf. The scholars of the Arabic language, they give it a more detailed definition. And it's similar to the definition I've given you to the ism and the fi'l before. The classic definition of the ism was ما دل على معنى في نفسه بدون ارتباط بأحد الأزمنة الثلاثة. Remember that? What has a meaning in and of itself, but it's not connected to any time period. Not past, present, or future. The word book, kitab, it has a meaning. You know what a kitab is. It has a meaning. And you don't know if that book is in the past, present, or future until it comes in a sentence with a verb that would tell you about the time. طيب, that's what an ism is. Then the fi'l was, بخلاف ذلك, in contrast to that, the fi'l is what has a meaning in and of itself, and it has a connection to one of the three time periods, past, present, or future. نعم ما دل على معنى في نفسه مع ارتباط بأحد الأزمنة الثلاثة. Just a slight change from the definition of the ism. The harf then is what? ما دل على معنى في غيره. Something that indicates a meaning in another word. It has an indication of a meaning but not in and of itself. So, like for example, what's the meaning of an? By itself, an, what's it mean? You need something an something. You know, you need al-hadithu an Abi Hurairah. The hadith is on the authority of Abu Hurairah. Now the word an has a meaning, but only when you connect it to nouns. Only when you connect it to other ideas. So then the harf is ma dalla ala ma'nan fi ghayrihi. Whereas the ism and the fi'l, they were ma dalla ala ma'nan fi nafsihi. That in and of itself, that word has a meaning. But now the harf comes without a meaning by itself. Its meaning only becomes clear when you connect it to other ideas. That's sufficient for the definition of a harf then. Ma dalla ala ma'nan fi ghayrihi. What has an indication of a meaning in other words, or when it's connected to other words and ideas. Naam ya Abdul Alim.
Would this be similar to an adjective?
Would it be similar to an adjective? No. Forget English grammar. Forget English grammar. Because adjectives are nouns in Arabic. They're asma. Yeah? Adjectives are nouns. Actually, an adjective can also be a fi'l too. So just forget English grammar. This is why I say all those books that teach Arabic grammar in English grammar terms, they're a terrible waste of time. And that's unless you are a grammarian in English already, and that helps you. But if you're not willing to go back and learn English grammar to a collegiate level, then leave those books alone. And I don't recommend anyone learn English grammar to a collegiate level in order to learn Arabic in a failing way anyway. Let's look at Surah At-Tin. I'd like to ask you about some of the words in Surah At-Tin for tatbiq, for application of what we learned. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الشيطان, the word الشيطان, in the phrase I've just given you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Is it a noun? Is it an ism, a fi'l, or a harf? And what's the proof, Sultan? Oh, because it has min before it? Min ash-shaytan. You're using the tool of harf jar preceding a word that means that word is an ism. Ahsant. Correct application. There's another reason why it's also an ism. Because of alif lam. Ash-shaytani. Naam. And you could even say a third one, but it's pretty much included with what Sultan said. Harfu khafd means that it's makhfudh. So al-khafd as well. So we've got three signs of it being an ism. Ar-rajimi. Pretty much you say the same thing about that. طيب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والتين والزيتون والتين. What word is this? At-tin. Is it an ism, fi'l, or a harf jar? Ism, Abdul Alim. How do you know? والتين, not watinin. والتين والتين الواو. What kind of wow is it? Wow al-qasam. والتين, Allah swears by the fig. والتين. Naam. So then it's got wow al-qasam before it. It's an ism. What else is another sign? At-teen. Alif lam teen. Yeah, it's got the alif lam in it. What's on the noon? A kasr, which is a sign of it being makhfood. That'll be coming up. That'll be more clear. It's got khafd because it's got a harf al-qasam before it. It's makhfood. Verbs can't be makhfood. This is an ism. وَالزَّيْتُونِ, same thing can be said about that. وَطُورِ سِينِينَ وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ لَقَدْ خَلَقَنَا الْإِنسَانَ لَقَدْ خَلَقَنَا. The word خَلَقَنَا. What is it, ya Anas? خَلَقَنَا. Ism, fi'l or harf. خَلَقَنَا. It's a fi'l, ahsant. And what's your proof? Where's your evidence it's a fi'l? It has a qad before it? Ahsant. Correct application. Laqad. The lam here comes before the qad. It could be walaqad, falaqad, or just qad, or waqad, and so on. All of that would be okay, but the qad comes, fatha on the qaf, and a sukoon on the dal every time. Qad. Laqad khalaqana al-in. So khalaqana is a fi'l. Al-insana fi ahsani taqweem. The word fi. What part of speech is it? Ya Ibrahim? It's a harf jar. We already memorized that list of huruf al-jar or huruf al-khafd, as Ibn Ajrumiyyah calls them. And so we know it's a harf because all the huruf al-khafd are harfs. We already know them to be harf. So fi is a harf. And you could say also, because it's not a noun and it's not a verb. We know it's not a noun, we know it's not a verb. It is a harf. Ahsani. The word ahsani. Let's go to Sayyid Ikram. Ahsani. Ism, fi'l, or harf. Yeah, it's an ism. How do you know that? لَقَدْ خَلَقَنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ فِي أَحْسَنِ. He said the kasr on the noon means it's makhfood, and it being makhfood is a sign of an ism. Correct application, barakallahu feek. Another sign of it being an ism would be the harf al-khafd before it, fi being before it. So we've got two. Fi being before it and it being makhfood. What about alif lam? No, there's no alif lam. We don't have to have all of the signs, but there we have two of the four signs. Fi ahsani taqweemin. Taqweemin. Ya Aba Abdul Fattah. Taqweem. Ism. Fi'l. Or harf. And why? Taqweemin. Fi ahsani taqweemin. It's an ism because of tanween. Ahsan taqweemin. There's another sign too, not only tanween. So what does that mean? If there's an ism before it, what is it then? If there's an ism before a word, does that mean anything about what it will be? It doesn't mean anything. Anything can come after an ism. We've already limited certain situations. Harfu jar comes, harfu khafd, that's a sign of something. Qad comes, that's a sign that the next word will be something. But anything else, an ism comes, what's after the ism? We don't know what it is. It doesn't indicate anything. So we have fi ahsani taqweemin. Our brother says taqweem is an ism because of the tanween. And tanween is a sign of an ism. That's a correct application. There's another sign though. It's makhfood, yeah? Taqweemin, it's makhfood. And so the two kasras is the sign of it being an ism. Next verse. ثُمَّ رَدَدَنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ فَلَهُمْ أَجْرٌ غَيْرُ مَمْنُونٍ غَيْرُ مَمْنُونٍ. Ya Hanif, mamnoon. Ism, harf, or fi'l. It's an ism, and how do you know? Tanween, غير ممنون. فلهم أجر غير ممنون. طيب. فما يكذبك بعد بالدين. بالدين. What do you say, ya Ibrahim? Ad-din is what? Ism, harf, or fi'l. It's an ism, and how do you know? Alif lam. And tanween. There's no tanween. You can't have alif lam and tanween. Pay attention to that statement. You can't have alif lam and tanween on a single word. مخفوض. It's مخفوض. أحسنت. And B. حرف الجار before it. So it's got a حرف خفض before it. It's مخفوض. And what does it got? Alif lam. بالدين. طيب. Who can give me an example now of an ism that has all four signs? You're listening to the question. Give me an ism. And we're closing with this. Here's a challenge to you right now. Give me an ism now that has all four signs of being an ism. You can make the example up. You don't have to bring it from the Quran. Give me an example of an ism that has all four signs mentioned by Ibn Ajrumiyyah. Ibrahim. You don't think it's possible? Built on the statement that I said about 2 minutes ago, you can't have a word that has alif, lam, a ta'rif, and tanween together in the same word. So the most we're going to get is 3 out of the 4 signs in a single word for an ism. This is what Allah Ta'ala has made easy for us this evening. Barakallahu feekum wa yassara Allahu tariqakum ila itqan al-lugha wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barik ala nabiyyina Muhammad.